Film is underrated and undertaught in public schools. Think about it. In their free time, high school and middle school students are more likely to watch film and television, to consume visual media, than they are to read books for fun. I often wonder, why isn't film studied alongside English more often? It is so ideologically rich, so versatile, and so relevant to students' needs to be media literate. But still, we see it represented like this.
And I said to her, "Don't you have to do a shift at school tomorrow?" And she went, I'll just show a video. And I was like, that's why teachers show videos?
In this video, I am going to make a case for film studies to be more effectively integrated in ELA education. I will go over why this should be done and how it can be done. To start, film is relevant to students. It has been since film became more accessible and more heavily marketed toward teenagers in the 1950s. Students watch movies for fun, and they watch YouTubers and television shows in their free time. When film is integrated into the curriculum, students will be more readily engaged with the content. Public education is changing. English classrooms no longer solely consist of memorizing poems, copying sentences, and listening to the teacher talk for the entire hour of class. The new normal is differentiated instruction and universal design. This means shaping each and every lesson you teach to try to cater to different abilities, strengths, and learning styles. Incorporating film studies in class would engage different learning styles and effectively differentiate instruction. Besides the visual and audio elements of film, the discussions and note-taking around film are different than those of reading and allows students and teachers to expand their horizons. Now that we've established why this is important, we must discuss: how can this be implemented in an ELA class without taking away from the books and poems and standards at hand? For starters, film and books don't have to be mutually exclusive. Film can be used as a tool to understand books. Normally, in English classrooms, we see movies shown in one of two ways: to give historical context or biographical context in the forms of biopics and documentaries, and to wrap up a unit on a book by showing its film adaptation. These films are watched, sometimes enjoyed, but they're enjoyed as recreations of books, not as works of art themselves with their own nuanced meanings. Take the following scene from Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet. I remember sitting and watching this in my own English class.
Sometimes she driveth o'er a soldier's neck, and then dreams he of cutting foreign throats, and being thus frighted, swears a prayer or two and sleeps again. This is the hag, when maids lie on their backs, that presseth them and learns them face to bear, making them women of good courage. This is she! This is she! Peace, good Mercutio, peace. Thou talk'st of nothing. True. I talk of dreams.
How could we have watched this scene without ever even talking about it? You can show this film to your class, but if you don't take a moment to discuss why there are so many cuts and perspective changes in this scene, to discuss how that changes students' understanding of the Queen Mab speech, you're letting them miss out on so much learning. Film can be used to strengthen students' critical thinking about the books they have read, and it can also be a comprehension tool. Going back to Shakespeare, reading Hamlet and watching Hamlet are two different experiences, and seeing Hamlet in a modern context can help students relate with characters and understand the plot. To go further, beyond basic comprehension, using the Hamlet example, students are given opportunities to think about how the ideas in Hamlet are presented. Why were things shot in certain ways? How does the film deal with some of the themes of the play? Is it stronger on the page, the stage, or the screen? Why? These questions can lead to fruitful discussions, argumentative essays, and most importantly, a deeper understanding of Hamlet. This can bring students to think about adaptation in a deeper, real-world context as well. For example, the 1972 Great Gatsby varies greatly from the 2013 version. You could ask students not only how these adaptations take on the book, but how they differ from each other and why. Who are these films respectively targeted toward? Why were they made how they were? Were certain things left out of the older version because of the time? Were certain things included in the new one because times have changed? What works and what doesn't? Why would they use a Lana Del Rey song in the newer one? What does that add to your understanding of Daisy and Gatsby's relationship? The questions just keep coming, and that is the beauty of it.
You think you're funny, don't you, bro? You know what? In Mona Burger, there are no comedians. You mess with Kurt and you go into the grinder.
Okay, now this grinder of yours, is it a real grinder or is it some kind of a metaphor?
Ideas that are explored in books can also be explored in film, making students' understanding of these ideas more nuanced. Metaphors, for example, can be found everywhere. In films, they are seen differently. If metaphors just aren't clicking in books, then when a student watches, say, They Live, it might click in an interesting and humorous way. That way, when they read To Kill a Mockingbird, they might be more equipped to spot and analyze metaphors. Imagery is powerful in film. A film that is full of imagery and metaphor is Pan's Labyrinth. This might be a film more fit for a senior English class, but it is filled with imagery that can be discussed, debated, and analyzed in class. What does Ophelia's green dress represent? What is the scene with the pale man trying to say? Why are his eyes on his hands? What is the significance of the pocket watch? There are so many questions and so many subtle and not so subtle images that could be discussed for hours. This eye for imagery in film can carry into other mediums, such as books and poems. The score of a film can be analyzed in the same way diction is in a book. We hear certain sounds and notes in different places to evoke feeling or to remind us of something. Sideways explains this in his video, citing Up.
And you hear that theme again when Fredrickson is passing on the Ellie badge to Russell. Both times evoke that sense of adventure that Ellie gave Fredrickson, and really serves to remind the audience that maybe Ellie might not have been in the house or the book, but had never really left Fredrickson's side. And even if you don't want to look at the theming that deeply, you still have the theme from the sad funeral being played over Fredrickson looking over how happy Ellie's life was, and over Russell's badge ceremony. Again, something that was supposed to be a happy occasion.
Students could watch a movie with a powerful score, such as Up, The Piano, or 1917, to analyze how the use of music can strengthen a story. Films can also be used to prompt writing in so many creative and engaging ways. A student could write an argumentative essay about a film using prompts like, citing the texts of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, make an argument. Did Mookie do the right thing? Or, examining Ridley Scott's use of imagery, make an argument. Is Deckard a replicant? Teaching students how to watch films is important. It is also valuable that students are able to make films with their knowledge of form already in mind. There are so many ways you can go with this as a teacher. Students can adapt and parodize books, interpret poems, make biopics based on research. Allowing students to explore their interests in what is covered in class through visual media is exciting and engaging, and can help students further understand and interact with the material. Furthermore, making films can lead to a better understanding of how to watch them, once you've put the work in and made those creative choices yourself. The final argument I'm going to make is this. Literacy doesn't just exist in books. You can be literate in many things. Literacy is understanding something and being able to apply your knowledge. Being literate in film can change your life. When you learn how to analyze films critically, your gears turn every time you watch a film or TV show. You can't watch an action movie without thinking critically about gender and race. You leave wanting to talk about it, its cultural implications, talk about why things were presented how they were. When I finished season 1 of 24, I could not stop talking about it. Not because I was super in love with Jack Bauer, but because of its cultural implications in post 9/11 America. After starting my film minor in my first year of college, I noticed myself thinking critically about every movie and TV show I watched, even when I didn't feel like thinking critically. The habits were just there, and when you train yourself to notice certain things, you can't stop noticing them. And you don't have to be a film student to notice things. My first day of student teaching, I sat in on a film class. The kids were watching Alien. When they regrouped, one student said it was boring and too drawn out. He said the scenes were way too long. The teacher asked, "Well, do you think they did that on purpose?" And he said, "Yeah, probably." The teacher asked why, and the student said, "I don't know, probably to build suspense. The potential to look at films more actively is there. It's already happening in some students, and as teachers, we can help to nurture this critical thinking so that it can grow into film literacy. When students can analyze what they're watching, they take their critical thinking skills and strengthen them outside of the classroom, sometimes for fun. This type of thinking leads to spirited debates, passionate social media posts, and connection making. When students are thinking critically about film, these skills transfer to critical thinking about books and poems. I know for me, once I learned how to look at films, I found it much easier to understand literary devices in writing. If film is included in English education, students will be more engaged. They will be able to transfer their film literacy to the books they read, the YouTube scandals they see unfold, the ads that are targeted toward them, the songs that they hear, and the music videos they watch. To sum things up, film is an art form that has so much educational potential. For the reasons mentioned, including film studies in English language arts standards and curriculum would be a huge game changer.